I would have tried to beat him before I left the weigh room. I am making the running.
Ride like you. There's more finesse in an ice cream.
I don't know how they sleep at night.
He's got everything it takes to win a Gold Cup. Oh my God.
Hello folks, they said it would never happen. We got to the second episode of Unbridled. When I say we, of course, me, Matt Chapman, and my partner in crime, Mr. Paddy Brennan. Hello Paddy, how are you? Have you had a good week?
Yeah, I'm very good, Matt. Had a good week.
What have you been up to?
Week. Yeah, a few things actually. Just honestly, I feel more busier now than actually when I was riding as a jockey. But
You didn't get many rides, to be honest.
no, I
towards the
didn't.
end, did
I
you?
didn't towards the end.
A lot of days off.
Obviously, Kempton on Monday, we had a runner for my racing syndicate, Arkle. She finished third.
Okay.
Hoping for a little bit better, but she's back safe and sound, which is always the main thing. And on Friday, I had a very interesting meeting on behalf of the doctors and nurses with the BHA and the Jockey Club at Warwick. Where basically we all come together. They asked me if I'd do a talk on mental health, and I was happy to do so. Basically, the headline of this show was "Jockeys Don't Cry." Well, believe it or not, they actually do. You know, things with regarding social media and stuff like that. The game has definitely changed in the last 10, possibly more years. And the one picture that on that meeting that left a mark on me was to think of was 4 lads on holidays: James Banks, Liam Treadwell, Michael Byrne, and I think Aidan Coleman. And I think that picture painted a million words that there was only one person still with us. And we just had to ask ourselves the question, why? What can we do to prevent that happening again? What is different about the game now? And what we got to do to address it moving forward, that it's always important to speak. You're never alone. And yeah, it was really interesting seeing some old faces, doctors, and Dr. Jerry Hill. There was everyone was there that needed to be there. I spoke, and yeah, I thought it went really well.
I'm so pleased you did that. We've said it before, but your missus is a nurse, and I'm very happy to repeat that almost every show, because I think it's such a great career for someone to go into, because you don't earn a fortune. You really do it because you care. That's my belief anyway. And without those kind of people in the world becomes a much less a good place to be in. So I had no idea you were going to say that, Aidan. We do just literally throw this together. But I'm pleased because it's going to be a theme, I think, a little later in the show. Anyway, let's get on with some news. Barry Connell has been in the news just this morning. Barry Connell and Michael O'Sullivan have split. These are the combo for Marine Nationale. There's a bit of history here with old Barry, isn't there? Getting rid of jockeys. Brian Cooper, Danny Mullins, I'm sure there are others as well. Dennis O'Regan.
Adrian Haskin, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there won't be many left yet for Barry to use. What I want to ask you, first of all, Paddy, is when you get sacked, what do you do as a jockey? Is it the end of the world? Do you pick yourself up? What do you do?
Yeah, it can feel like the end of the world, and believe me, you know about it before anyone else does. You get the signals.
Have you been sacked?
Yeah, I've been sacked.
Who from? Who sacked you?
Howard Johnson.
Right.
Yeah, that wasn't nice. I've been sacked twice, actually. Tom George sacked me as well.
And on those days, so let's just say I'm Howard. Paddy, you know I like you, but I've just got to let you go. The owners don't want you anymore. You're not riding how I need you to ride. You've got to go. So I've had that conversation. What does Paddy Brennan feel then?
Yeah, when it came to Howard Johnson, there definitely wasn't them conversations. Believe me, it wasn't.
Okay.
It wasn't.
Paddy, F off.
It wasn't as fruitful as that. It's horrible because leading up to it, you know it's coming. It affects your riding. It affects you mentally. The phone calls of feedback aren't quite the same because you're thinking, what will I say to this man? Because I know he wants me out. I know I'm getting under the bus here, and yeah, so it is not nice. So yeah, it really a difficult one to deal with.
Who's right in this case? Because there are two sides to this. Barry wanted Michael to come and school after racing. Michael said, I'm booked at Cork. and I won't get there in time. Barry said, well, get off your last ride and make sure you are there on time. And Michael O'Sullivan said, no, I'm not going to do that. It almost suggests that Michael O'Sullivan had enough. I mean, he must have known it was going to be the end if he didn't do it.
Yeah, but I think, to answer the question, I think when things like that start happening, it's not a healthy relationship. Get off your last ride, come and school this. You feel there's something burning in the burner already. You're always sort of looking for an excuse when you maybe have another reason for getting rid of someone. Look, Barry Connell's a nice person. I think he's a nice person of the experience I've had with him. But he's been through a lot of jockeys, and it's not going to end now. I'm sure there'll be another jockey. And yeah, for Michael's position, you keep your head up high and you move on. It's a dangerous game being a jockey, and you move forward.
Yeah. So that's the news in this morning as we record on Wednesday. Marie Nationale, Barry Connell and Michael O'Sullivan have split. Luckily, while they have split, our sponsors at BoyleSports are very keen still to back us. So we're hoping that relationship, last thing we need to come in back, the sponsors have gone. And absolutely no chance of that happening, though, because we absolutely love our sponsors on this show, don't we, Pat? We love them.
Yeah,
love them.
Very grateful.
Absolutely
to BoyleSports.
love them.
Definitely.
We just had a good weekend of racing. We've got the big chase up at Haydock. Nice racing at Ascot. Was there any horse that really impressed you over the weekend, Pat, that you can't wait now to see again?
I think we were spoiled for racing the weekend. Honestly, it was amazing to watch. Factifile obviously is the one horse that really came to the fore. I think he's just an unbelievable animal. He does things with such ease, and obviously all roads lead for him to the Gold Cup. And yeah, I was blown away by him. The Betfair Chase, what a race! Obviously, conditions deteriorated rapidly. You go up there, it's good to soft, but for some reason that meeting, you always got to be prepared for that ground. And I thought Grey Dawn travelled with such ease. I thought Harry was brilliant on him, but he could not get by Royal. Give me the name.
Royal Pagaille.
Royal Pagaille.
Yep.
He was just a war horse. He toughed it out, but I wouldn't rule any of them out moving forward. I think if Grey Dawn was to turn up in a King George, he'd be very, very interesting.
So let's start just by having a quick word about that John Durkan. This is my take on the John Durkan, yeah. And what you have to remember, there is a very small group of people influencing a massive group of people who like horse racing. In other words, there are TV presenters who also do podcasts, who also are on social media straight after races, etc. And the general gist after the John Durkan was, this was one of the most amazing races we've ever seen. Factifile, Spillane, Galopin Des Champs, Fast or Slow, all in the mix. And of course, no one's going to disagree with that. It was great to see them coming together. But here, Paddy Brennan, is where I want to go on a slightly different tangent. I find it quite extraordinary that everyone is taking a race over 2.5 miles as the key trial for a race over an extended 3 miles and 2 furlongs. And for me, while I completely understand in its own right, this was a fantastic horse race, but there's no reality in anything anyone has said so far. This was a fantastic horse race, full of horses not running over the trip that they're meant to run over. It was like sticking a whole load of champion chasers over 3 miles and saying, well, that's a great race. Yeah, but they're not doing what they're going to be doing. I find the reaction, while I enjoyed the race, and of course it was amazing, but the reaction to it I find quite extraordinary. I don't think it's given you any clue whatsoever to what happens in a Cheltenham Gold Cup.
I disagree with that.
Good. Tell me why.
Because I think to have a Gold Cup horse, you have to win over various trips. To have the pinnacle of a horse, to be able to win over 2 mile 3 miles plus. Factifile, for example, he's won over 3 miles. So we pretty much know he stays. Okay, there's an extra distance in the Gold Cup, but I have no doubt about that. You're putting everyone on a level playing field over that trip for the first run of the season. Galopin Des Champs, obviously, we know he's better over further and he's run well, but I would not swap. For me personally, Factophile ticks every box.
After the John Durkan of 2023, I wrote this. Bookmakers have made a huge mistake reacting negatively to Galopin Des Champs' defeat at Punchestown yesterday. I'd have actually taken a positive view. Stamina is key to the Willie Mullins trade gelding success in this year's Cheltenham Gold Cup. Of course, now he's a dual-time winner. Yet stamina was the one thing Galopin Des Champs did not need in the John Durkan. Galopin Des Champs is the opposite to what you have just said. He's not a Corto star. He's not going to win over 2 miles, 2.5. But give him 3.25 at Cheltenham, he will power away from everything.
But he didn't have Factophile in his way in 2023.
It's a good point. There are some good novices around.
It is incredible power of horses, you know. JP McManus has probably never had a better bunch of stayers in his long generation of being an owner, and he's got such an exciting year to look forward to. Look, the new brigade, younger horses. Matt, I'll happily shake your hand if Galopin Des Champs win the Gold Cup, but from me, I can't see it.
See, what I think is quite extraordinary about the people who, like yourself, who just think Factophile or Spillane Tower is just now going to go and win the Gold Cup is you're dealing with one of the very best Gold Cup winners out there.
Yeah.
He's not old. I had someone on social media say to me, oh, he's past his best. He's been around a long time. Hello, he's only 8, for God's sake. He's only going to be 9 next year. You horsey people, you will be telling me, oh, they only come to themselves when they're 8 and 9. This horse technically should be in the absolute prime, getting better, not worse.
How many horses have won 3 Gold Cups?
3. I don't know how many have. I mean, Best Mate, Arkle. There's bound to be another one. Is there? What if you ask me a question you don't know the answer to? Because I haven't researched this. I don't know. I mean, I don't go. Do you know the answer?
No.
No, useless. Absolutely useless. But do you see what I'm saying? That if you think Factophile is going to win the Gold Cup, he's got to be better than one of the best Gold Cup winners we've seen for a long time.
I understand that, but I think he will be. And I think he's, you know, when you've come up the hill like Galopin Des Champs twice, already in a Gold Cup, to do that a third time, you have to be, he's an amazing horse. But for a new pretender like Factophile, I think it'll just be much easier. And I think he's got everything it takes to win a Gold Cup. That's my point.
I just don't know any other sport or race that you be judging, whatever you want to call them, players, over in an arena that's completely different to the arena that you're judging them going to go into. And yet, we're saying this is going to happen now because they've just raced over 2.5 miles. I find it bizarre. For all that, obviously, it was great having all those horses packed together over a trip that none of them are particularly bothered about, which just seems odd as well. Factophile's 3-1 for the Gold Cup with our sponsors, BoyleSports. Would you take that? Would you?
Yeah, it's not a massive price, but yeah, I'd stick my neck on the 9 and think he's going to win the Gold Cup. And what would be very interesting for me is where he goes next. I think he will improve. I think he'll improve from the step up and trip. And yeah, if that goes well, he could be as short as even money. That's how I see it.
Okay, let's just go back a little bit. Grey Dawning. I like this boy, but I'm really interested to see what you think he is as a horse. He was, well, what do you think he is?
I've had to think about Grey Dawning. I was watching him in Haydock. I was like, the way he went through the race, you might have to just say he would improve. You'd give him the benefit of the doubt that he could hit the line harder than that with a run under his belt. The more, when you look at the Gaelic Warrior and horses scratched from the King George yesterday, and you're looking through it and you think, which horse could be suited by that race? And do you know what? He stood out to me. I thought Kempton, flat track, 3 miles, obviously won't get the extreme going that you got at Haydock. He could be made for that race.
I mean, King George. I actually did send Dan a message yesterday saying you've got to run him in the King George, because the King George is up for grabs now. Even if fast or slow is supplemented, which is a possibility, it's up for grabs. And I know horses take a bit of time to get over it, but you know, if he's bouncing now, I can't see why he can't be bouncing in a month's time. It's still a month away.
Yeah, I think timing will be okay. And I think Dan, knowing Dan, he would be thinking that way as well. But obviously, horse comes first. He'd have to be happy, but could be a race made for him.
Ballyburn 6-4 for the Arkle. We're going to boost it with BoyleSports to 2-1. But what about Trip? First of all, were you just impressed with Ballyburn or not?
Yeah,
I've heard some people say they weren't.
he did everything he had to do. Good ground, 2 mile Arkle.
Not quick enough?
Possibly, but he's probably good enough. The one thing I think with Willie's horses, you're watching them the weekend, they will sharpen a lot. I think for anyone that doesn't know Willie's yard, I'm not an expert on it, but his gallop is always better with rain. It gets deeper. It's been very dry. Some of these are, like he's saying himself, are behind a little bit. That's how it looks to me. All this rain coming now is only going to be a benefit to them, and they will all improve. So, yeah, I wouldn't rule that one out.
This is a question I want to ask you, Pat. And I think this is one that a lot of our listeners will wonder. You get people like Willie Mullins, Dan Skelton, these top trainers, and they'll say, oh, he wasn't quite as fit as I thought he was, or he's not this or that. And yet, these are exactly the same people that can get a horse after 2 years, get plunged on in the betting and go and hack up. Is it different when you're dealing with a grade 1 horse to perhaps a horse in handicaps, etc., and it's more about the handicap mark than it is the fitness, or are they just kidding us? I mean, how does a Willie Mullins or a Dan Skelton not know whether their horse is really fit or not?
Yeah, honestly, it is a good question, but you do as much as you can at home sometimes. You literally can't do any more. You've done the routine, you've pushed them through whatever you can push them through, but sometimes you go to a race, they can come up short. Like, you talk about great horses over the years, Kodo Star, they managed to get through all that, but it's not. I would always take a trainer's words when he said possibly needed. Now, you do get the trainers come on after and they go, oh, I knew he was ready today. No, you didn't. You're hoping
who was
they're ready.
The worst for that you rode for?
No, there wasn't.
Oh, come on, there was.
Paul Nicholls had always come on after when one won a big race. I knew I had him ready today. And you think, yeah, fair play. But the same person might come on and say, oh, I thought you'd need it.
But there must be someone who you knew when you rode for, and they said, this is absolutely spot on today. You'd look at it and you think, no, it's not.
Yeah, no, to be fair, anyone that I rode for, I was lucky over the years, rode for some great trainers.
You're not going to tell me, are you?
Most of them knew when one was ready.
Come on, who was the worst, though? Who must be someone.
Can't think of anyone.
Okay, so Ballyburn over a bit further.
Well, we don't know. I think Ballyburn wouldn't jump to any
2
conclusion.
miles next, I think.
2 miles. His jumping was good. Could sharpen that up a little bit. He did what he had to do. He was 1-6. I think when he steps up. But like he raced, I just thought he raced a little bit more relaxed. He took maybe a little bit longer over a fence than he would have hurled. Like he could be a stayer in time. Who knows?
Joking apart, are we just expecting too much? Like we've almost built him up already as if he's just going to win everything for the rest of his life by distances. And if that had been any other horse making a chasing debut, you'd say, OMG, he's destroyed them from start to finish. But it's Ballyburn. If he doesn't win by 4 fences every time, we just don't think it's good enough anymore. Do you think?
Yeah, we do, but it's a great thing about racing is an expectation, and you're so excited. Like he gets people watching the TV. He's a beautiful horse, and you'd love to own him, and it's going to be exciting where he goes in the future.
State Man's always been impossible to beat in Ireland, but now has been beaten in Ireland by Brighterdayshead. Do we kind of accept that for all that he's got all those ones next to his name, State Man is eminently beatable?
Yeah, look, most horses are beatable, Matt. Most horses. He's been beaten, obviously, by Constitution Hill. Brighterdayshead obviously had the run under her belt. It was a brilliant tactical race to ride. I thought Jack Hindy was so good on the winner, but I also thought Paul Townsend was brilliant on Statesman. It was one of them races you'd be glued to the TV. Fantastic horses. I think if you had the same race in 3 weeks, I do think Statesman would come out on top.
Okay, State Man better than Bright. I agree with that. Although we are boosting at BoyleSports State Man, Brighterdayshead, I should say, out to 9-1 from 7-1 for the champion hurdle. I have to say, I have a message on my phone from Michael O'Leary saying the mares will do for us. So I think whatever happens, even if Brighterdayshead has 5 ones next to her name, she will always end up in the mares hurdle because we know with some organisations, we don't need to get into this massive round now, but with some organisations, there could be a selling hurdle at Cheltenham And Brighter Days Ahead would be in that if it meant she would win it. And that is just what it's about. It's about having a winner at the Cheltenham Festival. It doesn't matter what race. And that's why Brighter Days Ahead will go down the mare's route. We can play this back when she goes and wins the Champion Hurdle, and that will give us a lot more viewers. We talked about Royal Guy. Well, we didn't mention the Ascot. Pic Dory. He might be supplemented for the King George. He's a useful animal, Paddy. Look, let's have a look through the two of us to the closing stages here. He's in control, but there was just a bit of wavering between the second last and the last fence when you thought, oh no, hold on, he might get picked up here. Just here, watch this. What do you think? Harry Cobden was in trouble for a moment.
Yeah, I did actually watch this and think the same, and then he's gone from the back of the last and picked up again. Harry Cobden rides this horse extremely well. He is not easy. He helps him. He's jumping. He's not a complete natural.
What, Cobden or the horse?
The horse on this occasion. But
remember, Cobden's the man who got Q card eventually, so you're going to sound bitter if you start saying that Cobden's not.
No, we're not.
Champion jockey.
Yeah, but this horse, he does make look a lot easier than he actually is. Supplemented for a King George, possibly. Can he win it? Unlikely.
Yeah, if the ground was relatively okay, like bouncy, he'd have quite a few off the bridle if he jumped as well as he did that day. Some of the slower ones, and the King George is a fascinating race because it's often won by stayers, even though everyone says it's a speed test. You outstayed Votor in that, one of the greatest finishes of all time. But he's slick, isn't he, Pic Dory? He's slick. It's whether he's quite good enough. You know what? Cobden, straight after the race, sorry, I've said a million words to one answer here. But straight after the race, he said he's a good horse. He's not a great horse.
Yeah, and I think that, and I think you say he'd get a lot of horses off the bridle. I used to ride a great horse called Nacrat, and every time he'd run in the King George, honestly, he'd have them off the bridle, down the back. But it's not good having them off the bridle, down the back, Matt. You need to have them off the bridle, jumping the last.
Okay. I mean, doesn't that just mean you went too soon?
No, he just travelled with that ease. You couldn't. He just felt like he was hacking. But, the King George, what a race. Can't wait to watch it again. I love it.
Yeah. How many times have you watched Q-Car beating Votor recently?
No, I haven't watched it for a while, actually.
Okay.
No, I did, actually. I was at Kempton the other day and it came on and I just had a little glance and thought, yeah, that was good.
It really was good. It really was. I want to talk about the Ascot Hurdle as well. Let's have a look at that because I love this race. I don't know what you think about it. We've got Golden in the light colours. Lucky Place, who's very lightly raced, placed in the Coral Cup, now wins this. What did you make of this lot?
I watched this race, and after the race, there was one horse I would have taken out of, and that's Golden Ace.
Right.
Just thought she'd travelled and jumped at everything right, but I think she would have needed it. I know we spoke earlier about every horse needing it or not needing it, but I think she will improve. It was a great ride by Nicky Henderson had the horse spot on, but for me, there's one horse to take out of it, Golden Ace.
Golden Ace. Back at 2 miles or just wait for the fitness over 2.5 as well? I think they might go for the Christmas Hurdle.
No, not a bad shout. Definitely. Can she win it? Possibly, but she can definitely pick up a lot of prize money. 2 miles, maybe 2.5, but yeah, perfect trip. 2 miles, mares probably.
I'm going to make a prediction.
Go on, Matt.
Towards the end of Unbridled's first season, in the hope there might be a second season, I think we'll look back at that race and I think we're going to have loads of winners out of those 4. I think they're all... Lucky Place could go for the Stayers Hurdle. Golden Ace could end up in a Champion Hurdle. You never know. I think she's really good. I love the way she sort of weaved around and travelled in that race.
She is. Very great stallion. Golden Horn.
Any eye catcher from the last week? Anything that caught the Brennan beady eye and you thought, I can't wait to smash into the Unbridled studio and tell chappers about that?
Do you know what? It was such a great race in the weekend, and I know I've mentioned him a couple of times in the show, but Grey Dawn is the one horse I take out of the weekend. Even though he didn't win, I still think Betfair Chase, race is moving forward. He could be one horse to follow.
And jockeys are desperate to get a word on this show from you. Did anyone ride a shocker, did you think?
Did anyone ride a shocker? No, but I'll tell you who did impress me. Charlie Deitch. He's poetry to watch over an obstacle. He's so good. I can't tell you what he's doing on a horse. It's what he's not doing. It's like Ruby Walsh-esque. Just motionless going down to fences. Oh, he could make the worst jumper look like a good jumper. And I thought Venetia Williams' interview was fascinating after racing on Haydock. She was saying how important he is. You know, what thing to say about a jockey. There's so much jockeys under pressure in jobs. They're not appreciated enough. He's in a great job, and she's met him, but he's masterclass to watch.
And a classic example of someone who's got loads of talent, has had difficulties along the way, and has changed their life around.
Yeah, to be a jockey, you have to be a bit mad. He's obviously that as well. But Venetia stuck by him. What a trainer. What a trainer. I think she's had something like 30 runners this season, maybe just a little bit more. She's earned nearly 400,000 in prize money. Mental.
Can you give us, when you say things like what he does towards a fence, I mean, I have no idea what a jockey's really doing. I know they squeeze and they kick and shove, etc. But what is he doing? Can you put it into any sort of layman's terms, or is it just a natural ability?
Yeah, for him is what he isn't doing. You know, if you look at Tony Mackay or Richard Johnson, they had different styles. They were like aggressive to a fence, 1, 2, 3, I need one here. Charlie might do nothing. Just poetry to watch. He'll have a full squeeze on, but he does not move.
What does a full squeeze mean?
Full squeeze with the bottom leg, and basically like the horse is feeling like it's loose. Like it's loose schooling. He is poetry to watch. Now everyone's different, but if you go on about jockeys the weekend, and anyone, like we say, Ketch, I could have watched him. He won the Betfair Chase and he won the last race. I could have watched him win a few more. It was just unreal on the day.
It's really interesting, the styles, isn't it? Because I love aggression. I love Peter Scudamore. I love McCoy. I love Jamie Moore. Any of those really aggressive jockeys who just chuck everything at every fence. But then you get someone like Deutsche, and it is a bit like watching an artist, like a composer or something making music, because he just sits there and the horse just pops and does its own thing.
Yeah, what I learned, Matt, over the years riding, I used to be out the country, you'd be up and come on, big one, big one, big one. There's only so many big jumps you can get in a race, okay? If there's 8 obstacles and you've gone out the country and you've seen a stride of the first 6, by the time you get to the last 2 fences, you're in trouble because there is no more big ones left. So what I learned with experience was to try and meet them on a perfect stride, ideally a short stride early through a race. And I used to think from 2 out, I used to think, what have I achieved? How many questions have I asked out the country? And I'd sometimes the answer would be none. And then I'd think, right, I'll be saying to that horse, these next 2, you are coming. You are coming. And I don't care how, but we are going to get from A to B as fast as we can. And that would happen. That was your mindset. You had to be doing the sums. And if one was having a few grabs, you'd be thinking, right, you've been too brave. We have to be careful down over these last 2. Or the only thing we'll be eating is grass.
Did you talk to the horses on the way round?
I'd always sort of after 3 out, I'd be sometimes saying, right, yeah, come on, this is it. You're having it. Yeah. Not having it as in aggressive, but you are coming for me at these next 2 jumps. I used to go down to that last jump like it wasn't there. Just like it wasn't there. Just almost close your eyes and as positive as you can, and let something appear. People say, oh, you've seen a good stride of the last. Sometimes I didn't see any. I just had to get it over it as quick as I could. Yeah, but
I mean, it's great you say that. It's like so many times people like me say, oh, that was a great ride. And you speak to the jockey and they think it was really bang average ride. And then something you think is bang average, they think was a great ride. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's They're a cliche, what's a good ride is a cliche
in
some ways, and just created out of absolutely nothing. Did you try and out-mind jockeys by speaking at any point?
Oh yeah, all the time.
What would you shout at someone? What have you said to someone on the way round before? Like, I'm going to wing this, you're coming down, or something. Do you ever?
No, but it all would start in the weigh room. When you get in and you sit down and you get to your seat, and maybe the lad next to you is riding the second favourite, the mind games would start.
Oh, like, what would you do?
Well, no, you would think on the way racing, right? That lad's going to ask me what I'm doing. I'm going to tell him I'm making the run. And that was my thing of, I am making the running before he gets to say. He might say, I'm making it too. I'll say, great, well, so am I. Just getting in people's heads. And then I always felt on a short price favourite, if I was making the running, let's say Nico de Bonville was even money, I was even money, rest got no chance, I would have beaten him. I would have tried to beat him before I left the weigh room. I am making the running. And why my answer to that would be, I am then in control. I know what speed I'm going. I can slow it down. I can be quick at a hurl. Oh, you'd love to just put them in your pocket sometimes.
But while you mentioned Nikolai again, I feel it's going to be a theme in this show. We should just remind you of his words. I have never been afraid of Paddy Brennan.
I'm not afraid of him.
I don't think we should go back to last week's show straight away. Obviously, we talked about Great Dawning, Gaelic Warrior Ile to Tom out. Willie Mullins taken all his runners out. I have to say that I never expected Gaelic Warrior to run in the King George. I think he is absolutely going down the 2-mile route, champion chaser, etc. You mentioned Factor File, and I don't think there's any chance of him running at Kempton. But if you owned Factor File, Paddy, would you supplement him for the King George?
Would I supplement him? Look, Matt, if you supplement Factor File for the King George, he goes into nearly odds-on favourite. That's what I think. Now, that's a question we'd love to know the answer to. I really don't know where he'll turn up next time, but maybe you can find out.
Yeah, I have had conversations with Frank Berry over the years, but they've never revealed anything. I mean, Frank is fantastic. In the old days when Oliver Brady was alive, Monaghan, Ballybay for drinking tea, and Monaghan drinks brandy, and Castle Blaney beats them all for eating sugary candy. We do a Cheltenham preview every year in Monaghan, and Oliver used to get this esteem.
I remember.
Dermot Weld would come, just because he supported Oliver, and Frank would come. We go through all the McManus handicappers. It was just a complete waste of time. Frank would sit there and go, yeah, he might run. Anyway, it would come to the end. This isn't actually a particularly funny story. He would come to the end and we'd all have to give naps every year. And every year we get to Frank. So, Frank, what's the big McManus horse? And every year he'd tip in the cross-country chase, where they always had, you remember the two they always had that would run, I can't remember the names, but they had two horses that always...
Spot the difference.
Spot the difference, well, yeah, there were 2 or 3, and he'd just pick a different one each year.
Yeah.
So one year he'd go that one, then he'd... Yeah. And it was always the same with Frank. You can't get anything out of him, which is why, of course, JP loves him. 2 things in life. If you're JP McManus's racing manager, you say nothing. If you're one of JP McManus's jockeys, you say nothing. Why? Look at the jockeys he's had. Aidan Coleman. You know, Aidan's got lots going on up here, but he doesn't say much unless he has to. Mark Walsh. I mean, you could spot one interview with Mark Walsh that in a year or something. It's like they say nothing, and that is where you get on in that camp, Paddy.
Yeah, you learned when you seen a jockey with the famous green and gold colours on, you seldom ask him a question. I always learned in life, don't ask someone a question where you might get a stupid answer, because you'd ask them and it was none of your business, but you learned just not to ask. Maybe we could get JP on Unbridled.
Thanks for your input, Paddy. Right, special guest time. Nico de Boinville was brilliant, wasn't he, last week? He set the standard. We slightly, we blew all the budget on the first show.
Be more.
So this week, actually, I'm really looking forward to this for lots of different reasons, both serious fun and various other reasons. David Bass is hopefully joining us from somewhere dodgy on the way to Hereford. Are you there, Bassy?
I'm here, Matt. How are you?
Obviously, David, you're a man who knows Paddy Brennan well. I mean, the obvious question is, what was he like in the weighing room? What are your experiences of Paddy?
Paddy was an absolute lunatic. Very, very entertaining to sit next to for 15 years. You didn't know what mood he was going to be in. And you didn't know what was going to come out of his mouth. But it was very entertaining.
Okay, give us an example or two, please.
Well, we'll start with me and the abuse he used to like. My phone's gone. My phone's gone.
You ask the one. I mean, Nico de Boinville, posh study, trophies. David Bass dropping the phone in the car. Don't worry, Bassy. We can do it. Just carry on. You just carry on talking.
At least I have more hair than Nico, and I also also don't hang jockeys in stewards' rooms.
No, definitely not, Dave.
Coming back to what we were
So
saying.
anyway, yeah, going back to Paddy used to give me a bit of abuse. And I'll never forget one day, I think an owner had mentioned to him, I was riding a few winners, and an owner had said to him, he wanted Paddy to ride like me. Paddy didn't like this, so he came back into the weighing room, and he came out with a one-liner which I'll never forget. But he was like, "Ride like you. There's more finesse in an ice cream."
Oh, Dave,
so,
sorry.
yeah,
sorry.
Don't say sorry now. I mean, I've got more abuse.
Yes, keep...
Every time he used to walk into the Cheltenham weighing room, "What are you doing here?" That was nice. But I think we should the real heroes with Paddy's career in the weighing room are definitely the valets. Alan Webby, I mean, he was a hero to put up with Paddy for as long as he did. And Bagsy, Neil Paynton, our valet, he retired a couple of years ago, but how he put up with Paddy for as long as he did, I will never know. I mean, you'd walk into the weighing room, and the next thing you'd hear Paddy screaming at Bagsy, "Where the are my gloves?" And Bagsy be there, be like, "Paddy, they're in your hat, sat next to you." "Oh, I didn't see them." And then, yeah, I'd look at Aidan Coleman, I'd look at Harry Skelton, all the lads next to it, and I'd just be like, "Oh, Paddy's in one today. We could hear anything come out of his mouth today." But it was very entertaining.
Were any of you a little bit intimidated by him, or did you just kind of just laugh?
Well, as I got older, I learned to just ignore him. But when I'll never forget one day when I rode at Ascot, I was a £7 claim. I was riding for Nicky Henderson, and I managed to get at Paddy's inner. At the time, I don't think he thought there was a lot of room to go there. And I mean, I've never been called so many names. He threatened to kill me when I pulled up. So he was like, "Who are you? I will kill you." So yeah, so when I was a £7 claim, I was like, yeah, he was a bit intimidating. But as I got older, I learned that he wasn't too bad. Yeah, he was all right. But as much as Paddy was a lunatic, he did like to critique my riding quite a lot. But to be fair to him, he was always the first one to tell you you'd give him on a good ride. And I saw him many times throughout his career. He would go up to young lads and tell them when they'd done a good job, and when they'd given one a good ride. So, and I think that was important. So yeah, it wasn't all bad.
But Pad, obviously, Bassie's had his chance, but we're dealing with a very interesting individual with David Bass, aren't we? I mean, what's your experience of David Bass?
I always looked at David Bass as different. A winner. I went racing with him a couple of times. Honestly, the radio stations, it was like Talk Sport or one of them, and you could go 2.5 hours there, and by the time you were halfway back, you were falling asleep. But
it wasn't Talk Sport.
What was it then?
BBC Six Music.
BBC Six Music. Like
best radio
who
station
even
in the
knows
world.
there is a BBC Six?
It could be a long journey, but with David, I think I looked at him as a winner, and now more than ever, we just want, we'd like to touch on the subject. Obviously, David, you're freelance now, and I think in the last couple of weeks you've ridden a number of winners. First of all, how do you feel it's going for you right now after the split up with Kim?
Yeah, I feel like it's going really well. Look, I know I had a long association with Kim, and it probably came as a surprise to a lot of people that I did leave. And like, yeah, as I said before, there was no fallout, but I was desperate for a change. And when you're so involved in one place and one yard for so long, it did just, I did just get quite sour. And I was desperate for a new challenge and a new routine, and I have it's completely different now. I'm riding out, for 6 different yards in the week. I've gone back into places that, trainers I used to ride for, Nicky Henderson, Ben Paulin. And yeah, I'm really enjoying the new routine, and I've linked up with Charlie Longs and Henry Daly in the past couple of weeks. We've had a few winners, so yeah, I'm really enjoying it. And yeah, I feel like it was the right decision on a personal level. I just needed something different.
Yeah, Dave, I can see in your riding that you are enjoying the new challenge, and sometimes a change is better than a rest. It's like a new motivation. Just one other question. In a job, and I've been in them before, where, it came as a surprise to me and to others. You've just ridden a Cheltenham Festival for Kim Bailey, and suddenly there was the talk you're going freelance. Can we just have a little thought thinking behind your move? Like, I just think some trainers, we're always quick to jump on the bandwagon of jockeys taking the rap, but trainers don't always put a jockey in the best position, and they're probably people that get away with flack sometimes. How did that make you feel there? And just finally, just when you did manage to change and go freelance, it is like a new lease of life. Can you just give us the reasons on that?
Yeah, it's it's a good question. As I said before, like there was never any fallout with Kim, but it was it was tough. Just as I said, being so involved, I almost got too involved in one place, and I got obsessed with one yard and just those horses. And I think I found it quite draining in the end. And even after Cheltenham, I knew I had to make a decision for a change, and I knew I was going to give up. I was giving up good horses, like Chianti Classico and Trelawn and a few others. I knew I was giving up good horses, but I just really needed to do something different. And I'll say it again. There was, Kim was brilliant to me for a long time, and he was very loyal to me, and the owners were loyal to me. But yeah, you say a new lease of life. That's exactly what I've had. I've loved going into different yards, riding with different people. I feel more relaxed, and I'm pleased you said you can see it in my riding, because I feel more relaxed race riding, and yeah, I feel like it was the right decision.
Well, the good news is, Bassi, something you don't know is that we've got Kim on the other line now. He's just been listening to all that. Only kidding. Of course we haven't. But actually, I have got Kim. I just thought, Kim sent me this, and I promise you, God's honor truth, I didn't say to him I'll play this out, but I think I can play it out, because I think it's quite nice. So hold on a sec. It's only a minute long, but...
Chappers, hello. The best ride David Bass ever gave one of my horses was got to be First Flow, either in the handicap at Ascot or the Grade 1 at Ascot. I mean, he and First Flow were made for each other, and quite honestly, every ride he gave him was absolutely fantastic. No one else really sat on them. And Chester Williams rode him once, but outside that, I mean, they were locked together, and they were tremendous together. What do I miss about Bassi? I miss the journeys in the car with him, having our conversations, which were very alternative. We had different views, and we liked chatting away, and the fact that then usually Nico de Boinville would be on the phone at the same time. So those things I really miss. He's a good guy. I got a lot of time for him, but he made his decision, and that's it, really. So any more you need to get out of me, I'll have a think about something very amusing about Bassi, but There are quite a few around, but I'm trying to work out which one would be the best one. But I'll keep you posted on that. All right, mate.
So I think you can tell from that conversation it wasn't a planned. Kim didn't know I was going to play that, but I think it's quite nice. First Flow was a horse, David, that was made for you. But I say that because I know that when I say that, you already start stewing up inside, because you really don't like anyone who classifies you as this all-action, front-running, throw everything at a fence jockey. And we saw a beautiful hold-up ride from you. I think it was at Utoxeter the other day. It really annoys you when you're pigeonholed, though, doesn't it? It genuinely upsets you.
Yeah, and you're the worst for it. So, you know, you obviously don't care about hurting my feelings, do you?
But I love aggression, and when you're doing your aggression thing, I love it. So I don't want your canoodling or your caressing. God help me, who would? I want your aggression. I love it.
No, look, it winds me up. It does wind me up, but not. Yeah, look,
You do take it well, Bassie. I once said to Bassie, you wouldn't say quite in a cinema, but I didn't mean it. I really didn't.
David, we won't keep you all day, but there are a couple of other topics I just want to go over with you. Firstly, the vegan thing. Are you still vegan?
Yes. Why did you bring that up?
Because it's you.
No one wants to talk about me and my diet and me eating chickpeas and falafel. No one wants to hear that anymore.
But is it tricky for a jockey to be vegan, or is it helpful out of interest? Like, what will you eat today?
Yeah, does it make you feel better?
Look, it works for me. I feel a lot better. I've spoken about, I feel like I can keep my weight more level. My metabolism is better. And I feel like when I do light weights, I can keep it more level afterwards. And also I've become a lot more knowledgeable about nutrition, which I'm quite interested in now. Which when I was a young jockey, it wasn't really spoken about, considering we are athletes that are making weight every day. Nutrition wasn't really being spoken about enough. So I'm quite interested in it, and I'm far more knowledgeable now about what I'm eating and what is in certain foods. So yeah, look, I feel good on it, but I try to not talk about it too much, or you know, people don't want to hear from vegan do-gooders.
Oh yes,
like
we
me.
do. Oh yes, we do.
Well, no, they don't. To be honest, they don't. They've got no interest in it at all. It's a ridiculous thing. But fair play to Bassie. He likes being different. Yes, Paddy.
We need to move on to the most exciting question for Bassie, which was Sprinter Sacre.
Oh yeah,
Bassie, I envied you on this day, as many other jockeys did.
Yeah,
Doncaster.
So we're just watching, Bassie, you winning on Sprinter Sacre at Doncaster. I guess this was the day that everyone knew this was a very good horse.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy to think about it.
Wow.
I can't believe I rode him. So I was living with Nico at the time, and he used to ride Sprinter every day. And I was sort of, I'll never forget, because I didn't appreciate it enough. Because I remember Nico saying to me, "It's like, you do not realise what you're riding at Doncaster on Friday." And I was just sort of thinking, back then it was like, oh, it's just going to be another winner. Like, doesn't matter what it is, just another winner. So yeah, I mean, also for Henderson to put me on him, I think I was a £3 claimer at the time, and for him to put me on Sprinter in a novice chase, first time over fences, was just unbelievable. But I wish I'd just appreciated it a little bit more, because back then it was, I was in a crazy mindset of just, it was just another winner, and I wasn't too fussed what it was. It was just about winning. But now to ride a horse like him was just, I remember schooling him, I think, a few days before, and I winged up over the fences, and the scope and the athleticism of Sprinter was unbelievable. So, and I thought to myself, I can't mess this up. He's just so good.
Bassy, the great thing about this show is we actually don't have a time limit. I've got 3 more little things I want to ask you about. One's very serious, the other 2 less so. But the great thing about this show is we can just go from an incredibly serious topic to having fun just like that, which is what the whole point of this is about. I've never told this to anyone before, and it's not a great big secret or anything, but I have to mention it to bring the topic up, really. After Liam Treadwell so sadly passed, I met you, I think it was probably on the M4, the M40, in a motorway station, and we sat down with 1 or 2 others, and you were very keen at that point to get the message out that jockeys should speak to people if they are in any way suffering from anything that could affect their mental health. It's something that's very important to you, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yeah. Sorry, you can hear me, can't you?
Yeah, all good.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Yes, I remember that meeting, and it was unfortunate we couldn't. I think it was COVID at the time, wasn't it? And we couldn't organise to do something, which is a shame. But yes, I mean, obviously, I was good friends with James Banks as well, and I knew Liam very well too, and you know, I remember when I heard the news about Liam, I was very, very shocked, and I thought, you know, we need to try and do more. And you know, I've spoken about mental health in the past, and I'm happy to talk about it. I mean, you know, like the word depression and mental health, I mean, it's, you know, people who know me, that, you know, it's like I'm not just a woke liberal that wants to throw these words around like some people do, but it is serious, and we have to do more, and we've got to break down the stigma. And it's obviously not just horse racing. Society is struggling with mental health, and the stats on, you know, suicide for men, well, and women, but you know, I think it's the biggest killer. Suicide is the biggest killer in men under the age of 40 in Europe, or something like that. So it's very serious, and we need to do more, and we have to break down the stigma. And I'm not saying we need headlines about it every day. We don't need to have it all over the media talking about depression, mental health. We don't need that, but we need to try and break down the stigma every day in yards, riding out, possibly even the weighing room and in the workplace, because the hardest thing is to admit that you actually do need help, and once you're over that first hurdle, it's a lot easier. And you know, look, racing it's very tough, especially being a jockey. Antisocial hours, lots of time on your own, and there's a lot of pressure. So we've got to break down the stigma, and we've got to talk about it more on an everyday basis.
And that is why we're very happy to talk about it on this show, and also why Paddy was saying at the top of the show that he'd been giving a speech about something similar earlier in the week. Right, couple of last things. Paddy, before Bassy goes, your experience of Kim Bailey is what? Because you said to me before the show, I'll tell you about Kim Bailey in the show today.
Well, I didn't exactly say that, but my experience of Kim Bailey was...
You did, actually.
Did I?
Yeah.
My experience of Kim Bailey, Bassy, was I rode a horse from at Sandown once.
Regal Approach.
No.
It was Regal Approach.
Was it?
Yes.
Is that the one I got hampered on the bed?
Saturday, the 6th of December, 2008.
Right, let me speak. And he said I came back in and blamed the starter. Obviously, he didn't agree with that. He thought it was a horrific ride. Matt, what has he said?
Nothing. I'm letting you tell the story.
So, 10 years on, he did not let it go. 10 years. 10 years. Till most recently, we sort of nod heads at each other. But I just put Kim Bailey down as someone that would hold a grudge, and didn't get over that one quite well. But anyway, Matt, I need more from you on this.
Well, hold on. So, have you only ever had one ride for Kim?
Well, you didn't give me another ride because you said I blamed the starter, and apparently I gave it a horrific ride.
Put my glasses on here just so I don't make any mistakes here. So this was Sandown, big race. The
No, it
owner
wasn't a
gone
big
there.
race. It was a conditional jockeys
Big race. Owner's gone there, got a box to watch.
Oh, I didn't
you
ask him
ride
to get a box.
Regal Approach.
I didn't ask him to get a box.
You start and you miss 20 lengths, and you come in and blame the starter.
I didn't
Yeah,
miss.
Paddy, you got to let it go, Paddy.
I
You were
did
brutal
not
on it.
miss.
Terrible.
You were brutal.
I did not miss the start. And anyway,
You were brutal.
Right.
In-running comments do not lie, Bassy, do they? Listen to this for an in-running
You
comment.
got to get over it, Pad.
Yeah, took keen hold, held up well in rear, hampered bend after fifth. I mean, it's already a catalogue of errors.
where to finish?
Still going strongly after 3 out, not clear run bend after. You've got it messed up again. Progress under pressure 2 out, kept on to take third flat. I mean, you were obviously not off completely, were you?
How far was the beat?
I mean, a few lengths.
Anyway, I didn't like riding for Kim Bailey anyway.
Yeah, that's because you were pants on Regal Approach. Finally, Batty, right, okay, so we've let you get off pretty lightly so far, but you're a very serious fella, you're a vegan, you've got strong thoughts on really serious subjects, but underneath it all, you're just as bad as Paddy Brennan. Do you remember in your past at all a hotel experience up at Newcastle when Happy Go Lucky was running in the Ida?
That was a great night, to be fair. But I've learned one thing: don't have a few pints with Charlie Deutsch.
So, I mean, do you want to expand at all, Dave?
Kim went to bed early, being boring, and me and Charlie thought we'd make a night of it and have a few drinks. I can't handle my drink. Neither can Charlie, by the looks of it. And we ended up. We were the only ones in the pub. We got the music on. Then we started. There was some sort of ornaments on the wall, like guns and sort of weapons. And we decided to run around the pub with the guns and the weapons. And at one stage, the sofa was over on its side, and Charlie was hiding behind the sofa, and I was trying to shoot him. And the poor girl that worked in the pub was not happy. She was not happy, and it was quite embarrassing the next morning. But I mean, at one stage there was furniture everywhere, and Deutsche had a pistol in his hand, and it was good fun. But I do apologise to the owners of the pub and the girl that was working there that night, because I'm sorry about that.
Apparently, Bailey went to bed and he came down the next morning. Get these people, all the furniture was everywhere. It was a bit like muskets and things like this on the way. They've been playing war games all night.
Oh, brilliant.
David,
it was a great night, but look, I don't do that very often. Okay, I'm very boring. I'm normally in bed at 9 o'clock.
I actually thought you were teetotal.
And it was very unprofessional.
Look, why I love what we're doing with this show and how it's going to develop is to have conversations like this where we can touch on, as I said earlier, really serious topics and also have a laugh. And to do that, David, we need people like you stopping in the car on the way to work. Just out of interest, do you always wear bondage gear on the way to the races?
Yeah, why not? You said I was different.
You certainly are. Anyway,
Dave, top
can't
man.
thank you enough.
Thanks so much.
Really, genuinely
Thanks,
can't
Dad.
thank you enough.
Good to talk to you both.
Cheers, top man, Dave. Thanks.
Cheers, lads.
That is David Bass. Well, just imagine, can't you? Sofa.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Toy pistols.
When you ask about jockeys, are they mad? There's your perfect example. Crazy.
Yeah. But the thing with David Bass is there's a lot there. He doesn't actually like. I had to do quite a lot of persuading to get him to come and chat. He doesn't really like it because he feels, I suspect, I'm putting words in his mouth here, that, people do go on about the vegan and the politics and all this stuff. But of course, that's what makes him interesting for us.
Yeah, he's a very interesting bloke. Great fella, honestly. And I'm not just saying that we're going to say everyone's a great fella on the show, but he really is. And look, you can hear it in his voice. He's happy. He's got a new challenge. And I think trainers have benefited from him being available, and that's how it looks at the minute.
Now, of course, if you want one of these, a lovely unbridled cap, or maybe even an unbridled mug. Coffee's gone a bit cold now. Keep an eye across the At The Races social media platforms. We'll be giving plenty of unbridled merchandise away. We should give away a day with you, shouldn't we, or something like that?
I think you could find many better things to do with your day.
Well,
What about a day with you?
disagree
What
at all.
about a day with you?
I have a morning with you recording this, and it's the highlight of my week.
Oh, good. I'm
Honestly,
glad
it
you
makes,
did.
makes me feel a bit normal. that Regal approach was an absolute shock. If you go and dig out the video of Regal approach, you will laugh all the way round.
Why was it bad?
Well, just because you're way out the back,
Let it go.
hopeless position, and you then manage to get. It's one of those classic ones that after the race, every punter's saying, "Well, Paddy wasn't off there, was it?" And the thing is, the sad thing is, you were off. You were trying.
There was no social media
It
then.
was that bad.
No views. No
yeah,
views.
Keep an eye out over all the social media platforms. Shall we have a look ahead towards the weekend, Pad?
Yeah.
Big weekend. The race that everyone knows as the Hennessy takes place at Newbury, and we're looking forward to that big race a lot. I think it's fair to say, however much you paint up this race this weekend, this handicap, it's not a vintage race, but it's competitive, Pad.
Yeah.
fair?
It definitely. I was surprised with how many horses were forwarded for the race. One of the greatest handicaps of the year. You know, everyone loves this race. It was a race I didn't win. I finished second. I always wanted to win it.
Well, you did finish second, actually, hopelessly second, didn't you? We can probably try and dig that.
Tater guide. But yeah,
You gave that one a good one, or were you way off the pace on that and getting hampered around the bend?
no, I did. I think I did well to get second.
Okay.
But a very, very open race.
What do you think?
You,
What about
you
Broadway
like
Boy?
Broadway Boy.
I think he's got a. I haven't. I've got to be genuinely honest here. I haven't decided on my final selection, but I do think Broadway Boy will be given a positive ride. He stays. He's a youngish chaser.
Yeah, I think Newbury be somewhere different from as well. Obviously at Cheltenham last time he was beaten 12 lengths, and he would need to improve on that, but it's very possible in a race like this. I just cannot get away from the Venetia Williams, Charlie Deitch combo. Victorino. If there's a horse in there, might have a couple of pound in hand. It could be that one, but you could put your hand over 5-6 of these. Very hard to pick the winner.
Coolwell Potter. Nichols giving a report. Now, what does this mean? He says he's too fresh schooling, etc. He doesn't know whether he should be going into top company or whether he should go to Carlisle. Coolwell Potter, if does that mean he's jumping badly, or does it just mean that he's too keen? What do you get from Nichols when he's worried about putting him in a Newbury race? First time, good company.
Yeah, I think he actually goes to Carlisle. What does it tell you? Puts a little question mark there straight away, doesn't it, you know? Going to Carlisle. Look, Paul knows what he's doing. He's champion trainer many times, but I'd like to be seen. Matt, I can't tell you about that sale where he came out of.
Oh, what a waste of money.
Oh, my God.
I mean, genuinely, I say this. Bloodstock agents, I don't know how they sleep at night, most of them. I mean, the key with a bloodstock agent is not knowing anything about horses. It's just finding someone rich that you can spend their money. That is the key.
Yeah, you have a point. It's finding someone rich isn't easy, but that sale, as I said, if you could give them all back, Matt.
Oh, you give them
if
back
you
now.
had your receipt.
Off the top of my head,
I'd say that's where Cowell Potter would be going. Straight back there.
5.2 million euros, I think that sale summed up. And almost every horse that has run since the sale, I mean, to be quite frank, has just been a waste of money.
It's that horse of Ben Pauling's that goes for the Novice Chase. Can you give him?
Bandit? Something about what was it called? So Durham had Imagine. That was Jukebox Man.
The Jukebox
that
Man.
wasn't at the sale.
No, but that's one horse
so
I'm looking for.
Moved on.
Jeez,
Pat.
Sorry.
Okay. Yeah. It's Captain Teague against Jukebox Man,
I was impressed with the Jukebox Man galloping at Newbury, but I think he's one that's really going to be exciting coming out over the weekend. Can't wait to see him.
You keeping me on my mettle here?
Yes.
The fact you've just completely changed tack there from a completely different conversation.
Sorry.
This is what the jockeys have faced in the weighing room. Of course. And also Regent Stroll, who was a horse you really liked in the Newbury Gallop the other day.
Really liked. You know, I think it was the first time out he won at Ascot, then he won at Newbury. Hits the line hard. Looks to jump very well. Could be very, very good.
Yeah.
It's a great weekend racing. Again, you're spoiled at the minute with all these new horses coming out for their first run of the season. Massive.
You're a horsey man. Nichols and Hendo have had a subtle pop without actually having a pop about the fact that almost all the beginners and novice chasers seems to have disappeared. They're now all handicaps. They're struggling to get experience into horses. I mean, as a jockey and a guy who's dealing with horses now, do you feel we may have gone a little bit too far one way and there need to be a few more opportunities just to get some experience?
Yeah, I definitely do think it's harder for a highly rated novice, to go straight in. For Cowell Potter, I think it's been hard for Paul to probably find the perfect race for him. I think you go back 3 or 4 years, there would have been a number of races he can run in. It does make it harder, but I suppose if you're not good enough to go in a novice handicap chase first time, I'm not sure if you're trying to seek an easier option. So it's catch-22 really.
Yeah, just see against Captain Teague and the Duke Max, Johnny Who's in there as well from the McManus team, John Joe and John Joe.
Great race.
That looks a really good. I love these novice. I just wonder, the thing is, I don't want more schooling events like Newbury in some ways, because at the end of the day, you want them racing rather than going to a track. But you kind of feel over in Ireland, they have those schooling days, don't you, when you can have 30 going around a track. I just wonder if Captain Teague and Sagino and all these horses could technically school round the track together.
Yeah, we do need a bit more of that, though. I'm not saying we need it for necessarily all them good horses, but there just needs to be a racecourse in England that opens up for more racecourse galloping. Like in Ireland, it's happening every week. Over here, it's just not happening, and it's one thing I can't get my head around.
Mm-hmm. What about the Fighting Fifths, Sagino? This is a question. As a jockey, how easy is it for a horse who's been schooled as a novice chaser for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, and then a week after its latest schooling as a novice chaser, because remember, he was meant to run at Kempton on Monday, Sagino, over fences, he's now going hurdling. How tricky is that for a horse?
Yeah, I don't think it's very tricky for a horse like Sergino. A lot of horses just school over baby fences all the time anyway, Matt.
Do they?
They do.
I don't know that.
In Paul Nichols' school, it's always baby fences. There's never actually hurls unless they go out on grass. No, I don't see that as a problem. And was he ever going around to Kempton? Yes, he was entered, but it was all to do, I think it was all a lot dependent on Constitution Hill. They were all surely had that in the back of their mind. If he didn't go as well as they were hoping, this was possibly a plan.
Do you think we will see Constitution Hill on a racetrack again?
Unlikely.
Ye of little faith.
That's how I see it.
You're wrong.
You tell me I'm wrong. You might be wrong.
I doubt it. I've got in Hendo we trust.
Yeah, great trainer, and look, no one could handle the horse better. But anyway, I hope we do see him again.
I feel there's some pressure on Hendo somewhere behind the scenes. I don't quite know where, but he couldn't tell everyone Sagino was going to run in the Fighting Fifth, and it was difficult to know why he couldn't tell everyone. He just felt that there was something behind the scenes, and I've no idea what.
Yeah, you should be owner based. You have to speak to people. It's not easy training horses. These communication and telling you one thing and you haven't spoke to the owner, that doesn't always go down well. So
yeah. He's having to juggle a lot of big owners. Well, McManus's, Donnelly's, these are all people who want to be served first, aren't they?
Look, Nicky Henderson, you've rang him, I've rang him. He answers the phone. He answers the question. Not bad, man.
He actually, I don't know. He actually gave me, I was going to say, people aren't going to, I was sat at home Friday night about 9 in the evening. He gave me a call and probably talked to him for about 20 minutes.
Yeah.
It was funny. Mrs. Endo's in the background going, "Stop, what are you doing telling him that?" Not that he told me anything that I couldn't reveal on this show, but he really does care.
Yeah.
And you know what? The reason he called me to apologise, although he didn't have to. Because if you remember rightly, no one knows this, before we recorded our show last week, which was Wednesday morning, I rang him.
Yeah, I remember that.
And I said to him, "Is Constitution Hill fine after you pulled out the gallop?" And he wasn't lame at that minute. And he rang me Friday night and he said, "I just wanted to call you to say that I didn't want you to feel that I hadn't told you the truth on Wednesday," because he was okay then. And I felt bad about it. And I thought, crikey, firstly, when I got into this sport, I never ever imagined that 9 o'clock on a Monday night, a trainer like Nicky Henderson or Martin Pipe or John Gosden might call me up and say something like that. So in some ways, I still get quite taken aback by people like that ringing me. And secondly, I thought, you can't ask for more than that from someone. That is total decency.
At the end of the day, Matt, they're all human. They're all human.
You human?
Sometimes.
Fighting fifth then, Sergino, does he just go and win? Mystical Power, who run in the Rich Richie colours. He could be very strong in the champion hurdle division if he's got Lossy Mouth, of course, as well. Would you be a Sergino? Would you be a Mystical fan or something else?
I'm really am a Sergino fan. Great race. I think it's between the two. Look, Newcastle as a track, it's quite a tight track and it can be sharp when the ground's decent there. I think it'll suit Sergino. Not saying it won't suit Mystical Power, but he'd be the horse I would like to ride in the race. And yeah, looking forward to seeing him. By a great stallion. It's Gino. Not many of them about.
If I was having a bet in that race now, I would firstly ring Kerry Lee up and say, "Are you running Nemean Lion?" Which I could do on the show now. I'm kind of thinking I should do that and see if she answers, because otherwise,
Brentford Hope, he would be an each way.
Brentford Hope, chat away, Paddy, to yourself for a sec. Go through the form because this is Kerry is on a long losing streak. She won't thank me for saying that. She's desperate for. Let's just see if she answers now, and we just check Kerry because I don't want to say. I think the Nemean Lion is an excellent each way bet at about 20 to 1.
How many runners will be in this, do you reckon?
Well, I don't
6.
know, but if you bet before the declarations, you get 3 places. Kerry, so sorry to disturb you. You're live on the Unbridled Matt and Paddy show. We're talking about the Fighting Fifth, and I just wanted to check, is Nemean Lion going to run? Okay, that answers my question, Kerry, an absolute star. Thank you, take care. Recently married, Kerry Lee. Do not back Nemean Lion. Highly unlikely.
Does that alarm anything else if they're watering there? Does that alarm Sergino? Will he run?
Yeah, did you hear that? If you didn't hear at home watching the show back, Kerry said they're watering and
you'd have to say
highly unlikely Nemean Lion will be declared. So don't back him each way.
No, but you know, does Mystical Power and Sergino, does that affect him? Who knows? But it's between the two. They might. Brentford Hope, I think, will finish third, but I'm not sure about Willie Mullins on water ground. We'll have to see what happens there.
I've got to say, I prefer Sergino as a chaser to a hurdler.
Do you?
Oh.
You never seen him school?
He's built like a brick house.
Yeah,
Paddy.
He's good. Look,
he
after
looks a machine.
After the way he went to Newbury, I don't think it'll matter. I'd say he'd be good no matter what he does.
Yeah. What about Lossy Mouth v Teapu? I mean, there's only one winner there, isn't there? Hatton's Grace.
Great race.
Over a shorter trip.
I'm looking forward to... I'm a massive Lossy Mount fan. Massive. Lossy Mount for me.
Okay.
Which one for you?
Lossy all day over that trip. But Teapu, absolutely for the stairs hurdle.
Yeah.
Over Strong Leader, who of course goes to Newbury. And
yeah, I think Strong Leader, yeah. He's going to be... Yeah, another good race. Him and Langler Dan. Great race. So.
Yeah. Well, I hope you've enjoyed Unbridled. Second week. Nico de Boinville was brilliant. I have to say, in different ways, Bassi has matched Nico today. I really enjoyed that conversation because there aren't many places you get in depth like that and you get into someone's mind. So I have to say I loved it. And even if we get 0 viewers this week, I've still loved it myself. And it's half the battle, isn't it?
Yeah. No, I loved it, Matt. Good show. Great getting the lads on. You know, we try and make it a bit more relaxed for them on here and they can say what they want.
Yeah. You've been good this week.
You think so?
Yeah, yeah. Because I've always said to everyone, we're like a partnership, yeah? We're like dating at the moment. And as when you're dating, it gets hopefully, you know, the first night's obviously hopefully really good, but then it gets better and better as you go along. And it's all a relationship building thing. So I can't wait. And yeah, I really enjoyed David Bass. So thank you, Bassi, for coming on. He keeps texting, say, where do I invoice? I told him there was no invoicing on this show.
You ain't getting any money
we're not invoicing, so he's
none.
It's the 4th text he sent since he was on 20 minutes ago.
You invoice on Friday, you get nothing back.
Thank you for watching Unbridled. Thank you, Paddy. You were brilliant.
Attaboy.
Thank you for being part of this fantastic show.